shout out to all the amazing MSLs out there who are listening. I think what makes the best MSLs are individuals who can balance scientific excellence. And they know this. There's MSLs everywhere supporting different therapeutic areas in their role, right? And to be that resource for your providers and really having the latest information on the science and the data to help physicians make decisions is so important. That's the primary part of their job. Credibility as well, curiosity, really understanding what's happening out in the external field, as we call it. And, just personally it's really important that they have clear communication skills and also an enterprise mindset. I think one of the things that I heard and learned as being a field leader is a lot of times they're so far removed as an MSL from the business, and maybe they're not always involved in the discussions of why a decision's being made, or maybe why is this initiative being asked of them. And so I think being a really successful MSL is one that can understand that enterprise, have that enterprise mindset, and be able to understand the full context of why it's important and why they're doing it out in their day job. I think those are just some characteristics, I think, Michael, that I've seen make MSLs who are the best really even be greater in their roles.
What do you think the role of the leader is on helping the team, especially a field team that's remote, to have a more enterprise mindset?
You make a great point. And you're right. I think it is on the leader. A lot of times in field roles as well, you have regional managers also. So information sometimes gets maybe not always clearly communicated, right? As you have several layers. So I think you have to repeat it multiple times so that people can really process this and process and understand it. And I think it is the responsibility of the managers as well to pull through that. But I would say if you're an MSL, and whether or not you're new to role, or maybe you're new to the team, or maybe you didn't hear it completely, I would just encourage you to also ask the manager to clarify, right? Ask them to clarify and help give that perspective. I think any manager, it is their responsibility to help make sure that their teams understand what the overall enterprise goal is. So it's a two-way dialogue, I think, and it's continuous communication because it's not always clear. One time is never enough. Anyone who has reported into me knows one of my philosophies and data that shows you need to repeat it at least 7 times.
Wow.
So my teams always hear me go, are we on our number 7 yet?
Nice. Yeah. Our CEO, he goes, repetition is the mother of all learning. Repetition is the mother of all learning. Right? And he just keeps repeating it.
And he's right. Yes.
It's true. It's true. It's the same with parenting. It's the same with a lot of things. We have to have reminders, and we all get stuck in our own swim lane, in our own vantage point, our own remit. And sometimes it's good to, go above the trees, see the whole forest and get that perspective. And sometimes you need to be reminded. Yeah. Understandable. So another key thing that I get asked a lot about our podcast is hiring is such a hard part about leading. Is there some interviewing trick or some question you ask people that you'll know instantly if they're the right fit for you?
What I look for in interviews, and regardless of role, is really the critical thinking. I think it's how people think through the process. It's not what they've achieved. It's not the right answer or the perfect answer. It's listening to see how people think through the problem, how they critically think through the process, how they would have solved the problem, whether or not the answer is right or wrong. And it's also how they handle a challenging situation. In the environment we work on, it's incredibly complex every day. You're managing stakeholders internally, externally, cross-functional teams. And I think what makes candidates successful are those that are leaders and what approaches they would take, right? And their first approach might not be the best. It might not be perfect. It might be a mistake even, but it's then what is the next alternative approach they would take. So it's really that critical thinking for me that's so key. And for an MSL, I think it's also even more important because for MSLs, there's an art out in the field. They say there's an art of being an MSL, really understanding how you navigate your customers or the healthcare providers, understanding their needs, and then using your unique skills to help bring the right insights. It's truly an art. And that's what makes MSL so special and so valued by companies.
Is that really the best indication of the type of MSL they're going to be?
I would say what it does show you is how prepared an individual is, right? How prepared they are for the conversation, how they communicate, because a lot of times the data that they have can be complex and maybe they're speaking to different audiences, whether it's an expert or maybe someone that's not an expert in their field. It's really, again, that art of MSL where they have to refine their communications. And so I think the presentation validates that they can kind of navigate complex discussions and be able to take them to the level of the audience. But I wouldn't say that's the key reason.
It does seem like if they hit the presentation out of the park, or if it's just kind of meh, or if they flop on the presentation, it doesn't matter what they've done in their whole career, that's what they're going to be judged on. But I do think you have a good point. It's about how the data is communicated. It's almost like, can you make it interesting? Can you tell a story? Can you tell a clinical story with the data? And if you could do that, I mean, then you do have the art of MSLing, but it doesn't tell you like, how are you going to get into a difficult account? How are you going to deal with this or that? It only tells you that one metric, but it seems to be a really important one.
Yeah. I mean, and I would say it is because that is part of the core role of the MSL. I would say it's not the only one, but to your point, bringing all of the different pieces together and then also how they present the data and tell that story and make it understandable to their audience is a critical part of being successful in that role.
I want to piggyback on something you said earlier about, the challenges female leaders have. You brought up mentors. And if you think back of all the different mentors and all the people that have helped you and the leaders that gave you advice, what was the best piece of leadership advice that anyone has ever given you?
I would say one of the best pieces of advice, and it ties into my story and maybe who I am today, has always been that people don't care what you know, right? When they first see you as a leader or when you join a team, what they want to do is know that you care. And that quote has always stuck with me. And if I think about, my parents, they didn't grow up with any formal education. They had no title to their work, but what they did and how they made an impact or how they were valued in their jobs was the way that they led with kindness. And so I think the way that you treat people is critical, no matter what role you're in, treating people with respect, showing gratitude for the work that they do, and never forgetting the importance of who you are. That's really how my leadership's been shaped. Leadership, I believe, has nothing to do with titles. There's a lot of leaders out there that have very important titles, but it's really about the personal commitment to serve others. I mean, when you sign up to be a leader, you're really signing up to a commitment to be selfless, right? You want to genuinely invest in helping people around you succeed. And as you know, it's an opportunity as a leader to open doors for other people. And it's those principles and those core values I learned from seeing how, my godmother opened the door for my parents that then comes back to my roots and teaches me every day how I can open the door for other people. How can I lift them up in their jobs? How can I make them successful and create opportunities for them that then lead to a greater impact as a whole?
I cannot think of a better point to end on because that really encapsulates the whole discussion. But I just want to thank you for being a guest on the Pharmaverse podcast. I know I've grown as a result of it. I learned a lot of things, and I'm sure our audience has too.